a war that has raged for nearly 2 years, tens of thousands dead, cities reduced to rubble, and civilians displaced into endless uncertainty. Suddenly, a bold document emerges, 20 points that could either stop the bloodshed or reset it under a new label. This is the Trump-Netanyahu Gaza plan. But the critical question remains, is it really peace or just another trap? For months, Israel's war in Gaza has dominated headlines. Attempts at ceasefire, brokered by Egypt, Qatar, the United Nations, have all collapsed. The most recent truce in early 2025 ended abruptly when Israeli forces resumed strikes, citing Hamas violations. In late September 2025, former US President Donald Trump, in close coordination with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, unveiled a sweeping 20-point peace plan. The plan immediately triggered debate. It promised an end to the fighting, hostage returns, and a roadmap for Gaza's reconstruction. Yet critics warn it could sideline Palestinians, empower outside powers, and cement Israeli influence. Let's break down the plan into 5 clear categories. The first step is a full ceasefire. Within 72 hours of agreement, Hamas must release all Israeli hostages, alive and dead. In return, Israel is expected to release nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, including 250 serving life sentences. The timeline is extraordinarily tight. Supporters call it decisive. Critics call it unrealistic. The plan demands Hamas dismantle its military infrastructure, tunnels, rocket stockpiles, and weapons manufacturing facilities. Independent monitors would oversee compliance. Israel says this guarantees its security. Hamas sees it as enforced disarmament. Here lies the most radical element. Gaza would be run not by Hamas, not by the Palestinian Authority, but by a temporary technocratic committee overseen by an international board of peace. According to documents, Trump himself would chair this board with high-profile figures like former British Prime Minister Tony Blair playing advisory roles. It's a striking departure from traditional Palestinian self-rule. The Israel Defense Forces would gradually pull back, but only after benchmarks were met. Israel would still manage certain perimeter controls, especially border security, for an undefined period. The plan envisions a massive aid surge, new housing, hospitals, and even the creation of a special economic zone. Supporters claim this could transform Gaza into a regional hub. But skeptics ask who funds it, who profits, and does economic relief replace political rights? So where does everyone line up? Netanyahu has endorsed the plan, praising it as historic. For him, the key goals, hostage recovery, Hamas's military dismantling, and secure borders are all covered. Eager to reassert relevance, the PA has cautiously welcomed the plan. It signals willingness to reform its institutions, aligning with Washington's demands. Hamas has not accepted. Leaders say they are reviewing the proposal with other Palestinian factions. The group faces a dilemma: accept a deal that strips it of power, or reject it and risk even harsher Israeli offensives. Reactions are mixed. Some Gulf nations view it as a step towards stability. Others, including parts of the Arab League, worry the plan sidelines Palestinian aspirations for real sovereignty. The UN has acknowledged the proposal, but stresses that any plan must respect humanitarian law and Palestinian rights. European capitals, too, are watching carefully, torn between war fatigue and skepticism of a US-Israel-driven blueprint. The plan's strengths and weaknesses emerge in its pressure points. Can such a sensitive prisoner-hostage exchange truly be executed in just 3 days? Families fear rushed logistics could fail. Negotiators say deadlines force action. Replacing local authority with a foreign-chaired board of peace raises questions of legitimacy. Would Gazans accept it, or would it spark resentment and resistance? Demanding Hamas's removal may look good on paper, but without a strategy to integrate or neutralize its fighters, instability could continue underground. Israel's insistence on retaining some border management could mean Gaza never achieves full autonomy, undermining trust in the plan's intentions. A new Gaza built with foreign investment could create jobs and hope, but many argue reconstruction cannot replace sovereignty and political rights. If the plan is implemented, immediate changes would be visible. Airstrikes would stop, aid convoys would enter more freely, hostages would return home, and Palestinian prisoners would step out of Israeli jails. Bulldozers would begin clearing rubble, rebuilding infrastructure, and setting up the economic zone. But deeper change, political reconciliation, demilitarization, and credible governance would take far longer. And whether Gazans see these changes as liberation or foreign management is the heart of the debate. And if the plan collapses, Netanyahu has already warned if Hamas rejects the deal, Israel will continue its military campaign with US backing. That could mean intensified offensives, more displacement, and an even greater humanitarian crisis. International trust in peace proposals would erode further, deepening polarization. For Hamas, rejecting the deal risks alienating Arab backers and isolating its leadership. For civilians in Gaza, the consequence is grim, prolonged suffering and devastation. So here we are, a bold 20-point plan that could either silence the guns or silence Gaza's political future. Is this really peace or just a carefully packaged trap? While the plan looks neat on paper, the execution carries enormous risks. If Hamas is removed but no credible Palestinian leadership emerges in Gaza, a power vacuum could destabilize the territory. History shows that vacuums often lead to new militant groups filling the gap. The proposed Board of Peace, chaired by Trump and staffed by foreign appointees, might lack the legitimacy needed to win local trust. Without buy-in from Palestinians on the ground, governance could quickly unravel. Destroying tunnels and stockpiles does not erase ideology. Hamas and other militant factions see themselves as resistance movements. Unless political reconciliation addresses core grievances, occupation, sovereignty, refugee rights, disarmament may be temporary, weapons can be hidden, smuggled or rebuilt. The humanitarian crisis is staggering. Gaza's health ministry reports more than 66,000 dead, with hundreds of thousands displaced. Infrastructure is shattered. Even if aid surges, the sheer scale of trauma means recovery will take years. If people perceive reconstruction as conditional or foreign-controlled, resentment could grow. The promise of a new Gaza sits at the heart of the plan. Special economic zones backed by international funding could provide jobs, trade links and development. In theory, economics could stabilize society, but critics warn who controls reconstruction contracts. Already, speculation swirls about US and Israeli firms positioning themselves for lucrative projects. For some Palestinians, this looks less like empowerment and more like exploitation. The risk is clear. If Gazans see New Gaza as a foreign commercial outpost, economic revival could backfire politically. Instead of hope, it could deepen divisions. Arab and Islamic states are pivotal. Egypt and Qatar have traditionally mediated, while Saudi Arabia and the UAE bring financial clout. Their positions could determine the plan's survival. Some Gulf nations may quietly back the proposal, valuing regional stability and closer US ties. Others remain cautious. The exclusion of Hamas and the lack of a clear path to Palestinian statehood are red flags. For Jordan, Lebanon and Syria, neighbours carrying heavy refugee burdens, the plan raises fears of permanent displacement. The UN has also signalled that while any move toward peace is welcome,